My dear brothers and sisters, life is a journey of mountains and valleys, a journey filled with victories and defeats, with joy and sorrow, with ease and with struggle. Every single human being, no matter where they come from, no matter their culture, background, or belief, experiences struggles. Struggles are not a sign of weakness, they are a sign of humanity. They are part of the journey that shapes us into who we are meant to become. And in the middle of those struggles, there is one force that gives us strength, one anchor that holds us steady, one light that shines in our darkness, and that is faith expressed through prayer. The late Dr. David Yonggi Cho, one of the most influential spiritual leaders of the modern era, often reminded his audiences that prayer is not just words we speak into the air. It is the very breath of our soul, the bridge between our weakness and God's strength, the pathway that connects our struggles to divine solutions. He taught that when we learn to truly pray, not with ritual alone, but with a heart full of faith, then our struggles, no matter how heavy, begin to transform into testimonies. And today I want to remind you, just as he reminded millions, that no matter what storm you are walking through, prayer and faith can carry you to the other side. Let me begin by acknowledging something we all know but often forget. Struggles are universal. They come in many forms. Financial struggles, when the weight of providing for your family feels unbearable. Physical struggles, when illness weakens your body and hope seems to slip away. Emotional struggles, when loneliness or heartbreak makes you feel abandoned. Spiritual struggles, when doubt clouds your faith and you wonder if God still hears your prayers. These struggles are real, and they cut deeply into our souls. But Dr. Cho taught that struggles are not the end of the story. They are the middle chapter. The end of the story belongs to God, and God's ending is always victory for those who refuse to let go of faith. When Dr. Cho was a young man, he was not born into wealth or comfort. In fact, he grew up in Korea during times of war, poverty, and deep uncertainty. As a boy, he contracted tuberculosis, and doctors told him he would not live long. Imagine that, being young, with your whole life ahead of you and being told you would soon die. Many would have given up. But in that place of despair, he turned his face toward heaven and he prayed. He cried out for healing, for strength, for a future. And slowly, against all odds, his health was restored. He would later say that this early struggle was what taught him the power of prayer. He learned that prayer is not a ritual of desperation. It is the lifeline that connects humanity to divine possibility. And so, my dear friends, I ask you today, what is your struggle? Maybe you are sitting here with a heart heavy with financial worries. Maybe you are carrying a secret pain in your body. Maybe your mind is restless with anxiety about the future. Or maybe your soul is tired because the answers you've prayed for have not yet come. I want you to know, just as Dr. Cho reminded his people, that your struggle is not the end. If you will lift your struggle into the hands of God through prayer, and if you will refuse to let go of faith even in the darkest night, then you will rise again. Prayer is not only asking, it is trusting. It is not only speaking, it is believing. True prayer is not a list of words. It is the pouring out of the heart, the surrender of fear, the exchange of weakness for strength. Dr. Cho often said that prayer is like breathing. Just as your lungs need air to survive, your soul needs prayer to thrive. And when your prayers are filled with faith, when they are soaked in trust, something miraculous begins to happen. You begin to feel peace in the middle of chaos. You begin to sense strength when your body feels weak. You begin to see possibilities where the world says there are none. But faith is the key. Prayer without faith is like a bird without wings. It cannot rise. Prayer with faith, however, can lift the heaviest burden and open the strongest door. Faith is not blind optimism. Faith is not pretending that struggles are not real. Faith is the conviction that beyond your struggle, there is a God who is greater than your struggle. Faith is believing that the mountain in front of you is not permanent. Faith is knowing that the night of sorrow will give way to the morning of joy. Dr. Cho's ministry was filled with stories of people who overcame impossible situations through prayer and faith. I remember reading about families who had no food on their tables, but who prayed and trusted and found provision in ways they could never have imagined. There were stories of people who were diagnosed with incurable diseases, who chose not to surrender to despair, but to fight with prayer, and who walked out of hospitals with doctors shaking their heads in wonder. There were people crushed under the weight of hopelessness, who walked into prayer meetings ready to give up, but who left with hearts on fire, renewed, restored, and ready to live again. And these stories remind us of something vital. You are not defined by your struggle. You are defined by your faith in the middle of that struggle. The storm does not define you. Your anchor in the storm does. The valley does not define you. Your courage to walk through it with faith does. The tears you cry do not define you. Your determination to keep praying through the tears does. I want you to picture this, a small seed buried deep in the soil. At first glance, it looks like the seed has been buried, forgotten, crushed by the weight of earth. But in reality, that seed has not been buried to die. It has been planted to grow. In the darkness of the soil, the seed begins to break open, and new life begins to push upward. Soon it breaks through the surface and reaches the light. This, my friends, is what your struggle is like. It may feel like you've been buried, forgotten, and crushed, but in truth you have been planted, and through prayer and faith, life will rise again in you. Dr. Cho also emphasized the importance of persistence in prayer. Too often, we pray once or twice, and when we do not see immediate results, we give up. But he would remind people of the parable of the persistent widow who kept coming day after day, knocking on the door until she received justice. In the same way, prayer requires persistence, not because God is unwilling to answer, but because through persistence our faith is strengthened. Through persistence we learn to trust. Through persistence we learn that prayer is not about controlling God. It is about aligning our hearts with His will. And here is a truth I want you to hold on to. Sometimes God does not remove the struggle immediately because He wants to transform you through the struggle. Prayer does not always change your situation right away, but it always changes you. When you pray in faith, you receive a strength that the world cannot understand. You receive peace that cannot be explained. You receive courage that cannot be broken. And sometimes that inner transformation is the greatest miracle of all. My dear friends, overcoming struggles through prayer and faith does not mean your life will be free from hardship. No, struggles will still come, but it means you will not face them alone. It means that when the storm rages, you have an anchor. It means that when the night is long, you have a light. It means that when your strength is gone, you have a source of power greater than yourself. And that is the essence of faith. I want you to remember these words from Dr. Cho. Don't look at your mountains. Look at the God who can move mountains. Don't focus on the problem. Focus on the one who is greater than the problem. When you shift your focus from the struggle to God, your perspective changes. The mountain may not move instantly, but your fear will. The problem may not vanish overnight, but your despair will. Because prayer with faith does not always change your circumstances immediately, but it always changes your heart. I want you to imagine your life as a book. Each struggle you face is a chapter. Some chapters are filled with laughter and ease, while others are filled with tears and pain. But no single chapter defines the whole story. Your struggles are chapters, but they are not the book itself. And as long as you keep turning the pages, As long as you keep pressing forward, your story is not over. Dr. David Yonggi Cho used to remind his congregation that life is never static. Everything changes. Seasons shift. Winter gives way to spring. Night gives way to morning. Struggles give way to breakthroughs. And prayer is the force that carries you from one season into another. When you are praying with faith, you are not stuck in your present season. You are walking into your next. He often spoke about the fourth dimension, the unseen realm where thoughts, visions, and faith shape the physical world. Dr. Cho believed that when we pray with faith, we tap into that dimension and begin to create change, not only in ourselves, but also in the circumstances around us. He saw prayer not as a ritual, but as a creative force. He would encourage people to visualize their prayers, to see themselves healed, to see themselves restored, to see their families united, to see their businesses thriving, and to hold on to that vision until it became reality. Now, some may ask, what if my prayer takes years to be answered? To that, Dr. Cho would smile and say, faith is patient, faith is persistent, faith waits because it trusts that God is never late, even if He is not early. And my friends, this is what we often miss. Struggles test not only our strength, but our patience. Many of us are willing to pray once or twice, but few are willing to pray day after day, month after month, year after year. Yet those who overcome struggles are often not the ones who pray the loudest, but the ones who pray the longest. Prayer is not a race, it is a journey. Think about a farmer planting seeds. He does not throw the seeds into the ground and expect fruit the next morning. He waters, he waits, he protects the soil, and in time the harvest comes. Prayer works the same way. You plant the seed of faith through prayer. You water it with persistence, and in due time the harvest arrives. Your struggle may be the soil, but your faith is the seed. Do not let your soil convince you that no seed is growing. Something is happening beneath the surface, even if you cannot yet see it. Dr. Cho himself faced unimaginable struggles, not only in his early life, but even in his ministry. He was a man who led the largest church in the world, with over 800,000 members. From the outside, people thought his life must have been perfect, but he was open about the battles he faced. Battles with health, battles with exhaustion, battles with criticism. There were times when he wanted to give up, but in those moments, he would retreat to the mountains or to a prayer house, and he would spend hours, even days, in prayer. He would return renewed, filled with vision, and ready to face the struggle again. He proved with his life that prayer is not a theory, it is survival. And that is why I tell you today, if you are struggling, your greatest weapon is not anger, not fear, not despair. Your greatest weapon is prayer. It is prayer that transforms fear into courage. It is prayer that turns weakness into strength. It is prayer that transforms darkness into light. And when you combine prayer with unwavering faith, nothing can defeat you. Let us think about faith for a moment. Faith is often misunderstood. Some think faith means never having doubts, but that is not true. Faith is not the absence of doubt. It is the choice to believe in spite of doubt. Faith is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to true. In the presence of fear, when you feel weak, faith says, God is my strength. When you feel lost, faith says, one God is my guide. When you feel broken, faith says, one God is my healer. Dr. Cho would remind us that faith is not about feelings. Feelings change with the wind. One day you feel strong, the next you feel weak. One day you feel hopeful, the next you feel hopeless. But faith is not rooted in feelings. It is rooted in conviction. And that conviction is strengthened through prayer. Every time you pray, you are reminding yourself that your struggle is not final. Every time you pray, you are lifting your eyes above the storm. Every time you pray, you are training your heart to trust. Let me share with you an illustration.